Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about the One Piece card game. Today I'm going to be reviewing all of the green cards from OP05. If you have not looked at my previous coverage, check it out, channel, link below, wherever. If you want to see all of these at once, check out my Patreon, it's linked in the description. I would really appreciate the support over there. Patrons have had this for a little while by the time you're seeing this. Let's go ahead and get started. We begin with the leader, Don Quixote Rocinante. So this is a green-blue leader, which says blocker, which is interesting on a leader for sure, and end of turn, if you have 6 or less cards in your hand, set this leader as active. So basically, if you've got a low hand size, you just get a free block, but if you have a high hand size, then you've got to leave it untapped. The biggest issue I see with this card is the fact that it is a 4-life leader. I think this exact effect on a monocolor leader with 5 life would have been really quite powerful. Unfortunately, the fact that it is on this 2-color situation just immediately hampers it from the get-go because, yeah, you can block, but one, there's a lot of effect removal in the format, which is immediately going to make this really hard to justify. And 2, if you're just being chipped down every single time, late game, this does nothing, right? This is a blank vanilla effect once you hit 1 life, basically. So it's kind of tough. Obviously, the idea is you build this 8-cost kid turbo, essentially, where you rely on your 8-cost kid and you play out ways to protect it, basically, and you just keep on protecting the 8-cost kid whenever your opponent swings huge and you've got this stack of 2 or 3 life, but that in practice is not really how it goes. But anyway, worth saying, it is Navy and Don Quixote Pirates traded, which are pretty good traits, so, worth considering. Alright, got Virgo. This is a 3/4. Don 1, when attacking, get up to one of your opponent's rested characters at the cost of 3 or less. It's fine, but I mean, yeah, it's got counter, but having stats that bad is really rough. I don't really think you can justify the space for this, but I guess maybe, but it just seems pretty mid. Then we got Queen. This is a 2/2 with blocker. There's a strictly better version of these coming up soon. Next we got Gladius. This is a 5/6, always a lovely stat line. 1k counter, activate main. You may arrest this character to rest up to one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 3 or less. Yep, maybe in green and black this will be worth playing, but outside of that, no, this is bad. Next we've got 4/4. This is Sarkis. This is a 1k counter. Don 1, when attacking, once per turn you may rest one of your characters with a cost of 3 or more to set this character to active. That's actually not bad. That's actually pretty decent. And I have to say, the funniest part about this card is the fact that you probably want to play this in a completely different leader that is not out yet, in ST12. I think this, in the context of Zoro and Sanji, is actually kind of crazy. And no one's playing it yet, but I think they probably should. But outside of that, it's pretty terrible. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, it's the problem is, resting is such a shit cost to have to pay that you're not really plussing from it in any way. And you just, yeah, it's just not good. It's just not good. Sorry, also 3 or more, or 3 or less. So I take back my comment about this being good in Zoro and Sanji because it's 2 or more, 3 or more. So this is just a terrible card. Next we've got Trafalgar Law. This is a 1/2, 1k counter. Activate main, you may trash this character. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 3 or less. Again, yeah, that's fine, but it's so expensive for what it is. Next we've got Don Quixote do Flamingo, 1/2, 1k counter. Activate main, you may trash this character. KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters at the cost of 2 or less. Now this is still bad, but at least there is some potential because it's KOing, and it's KOing arrested in something like a black-green leader, maybe. But yeah, again, super fine to mid. Next we've got Don Quixote do Flamingo. There's a trend here. All these cards have been pretty bad. 7/8. On opponent's attack once per turn, you may pay 1 to rest up to one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 6 or less. So, as long as they've got exactly 2 of those, and then yeah, you can get some value out of this. If you play this 7/8 without counter in your deck. Again, really bad. Really bad. Okay, first good card. Don Quixote Rocinante. This is a 2/1, 1k counter. Blocker. Opponent's turn. If your rested character would be KO'd, you may trash this character instead. So this is actually a decent effect. It gives you that protection, primarily for something like 8-cost kid, because your opponent's going to hard KO it, then you just get to go nope and keep it around. Unfortunately, almost everything is going to bounce it, or bot deck it, or reduce its power and then pop it, in which case keeping it around only does so much. So this is, largely speaking, just going to be a blocker that sometimes comes up, but it's the best one of these 2k blockers. You get a bonus effect, so I'm not complaining, right? That's far and away the best version of this that we have. Okay, next we got Buffalo. This is a 3/4. 1k counter. When attacking once per turn, if you have 2 or more rested characters, set up to one of your rested characters with a cost of 1 as active. So this is terrible, of course. Next, we've got Pika, a good card, yay! 4/6, no counter, okay. End of turn, pay 1 to set this character to active. Alright, that's pretty good. And once per turn, if this character would be KO'd, you may rest one of your characters with a cost of 3 or more, other than Pika instead. So, yep, of course you will basically never use that second effect. I guess you could. There are situations when you would, to be fair, but like, you know, basically whatever you just played like the previous turn to keep this around, but your opponent's probably just gonna, you know, again, bounce it, cost reduce it, like, sorry, power reduce it, and then pop it, the bot deck it, like hard, like, you know, like if your opponent could deal with the other thing and then they attack into this, it does nothing. So really you're just playing this because it's a 4/6 that is just going to one-tap, but doesn't have blocker either, so a good card is like a 5 out of 10. It's pretty bad. It's fine. Come on, we'll find a good one here. Baby 5, 1/1, 1k counter, activate main, pay 1, rest this character, play up to 1 Don Quixote Pirates type character card with a cost of 2 or less from your hand. This is also bad. Oh my god, come on, one good card, one good card. Baby 5, 1/1, 1k counter, activate main, pay 1, rest this card. Look at the top 5 cards you take for Don Quixote Pirates character. Yes, a good card. Oh my god, they did it, they did it. Finally, a good card for green. Yeah, this is obviously a staple for in Docking, but yeah, fine. Quite dire. Next we got Bellamy. This is a vanilla 3/5. It's fine. And then we've got Monet. This is a 3/1, 1k counter. Blocker. And on block, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. Hey, this is actually decent. Unfortunately, it is the easiest thing in the world to remove, and this is a format with a shit ton of removal, but it's actually a decent effect. So, credit where it's due, not awful. But yeah, this is it's fine. Okay, here is unironically the most generic and best card in this deck in this set for green, because the side of justice will be whichever side wins, which goes hard as shit, by the way. Not really sure why this is in green, but I guess because Doffy says it. 0 cost event, it's the discard and gain 3k, but the trigger rests up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So this is like one of, if not the best triggers on any of these cards, and these cards are in general just like very important to have. Yeah. Good card, good. Play it. Play 4 copies in Uta. But yeah. Next, we've got Charlestone. This is a 2 cost event. Counter, give up to 4k. One of your leader characters 4k. Then you may trash 1 card from your hand to set up to 3 of it on as active. Trigger, rest, leader or character with a cost of 3 or less. This is terrible. Moving on. Stickin' Meteora. This is a 2 cost event. Counter, up to one of your leader or character cards gains 4k power during this battle. Then KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 3 or less. Trigger, KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 5 or less. So the trigger here is actually okay. Honestly, this just feels like a impact wave, but like slightly different, right? But with a worse trigger. An impact wave doesn't even see play anymore, so yeah. I know this is different context, but I think you'd just rather play different events than this, but this is okay. And finally, a stage that is actually worth playing, Birdcage. 5 cost stage, quite crazy, but what does it do? If your leader is Don Quixote Doflamingo, all characters with a cost of 5 or less do not become active in your and your opponent's refresh phases. Okay, but that affects both of you, so that sucks a little bit. And now all the synergies to do with resting and unresting probably start to make sense. But then, end of turn, if you have 10 Don cards on the field, KO all rested characters with the cost of 5 or less, then trash the stage. So the way this is meant to work is you play this like on turn 3, for example, and then your opponent is basically stuck, because what you're going to do is you're going to do everything you can to rest down their board, and as long as they are not playing 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s, you're going to nuke the whole board at the end of your turn 5, and you're going to be massively ahead. Seems really good in theory. In practice, it's pretty decent. You definitely do want to be playing this card in Doffy, especially for that first effect, because if you play this outside of Doffy, actually resolving that second effect to do anything is kind of tough. But yeah, this is pretty decent. It's not bad. And that's it for green. As you can see, it's a little bit dire. Green got what, like 4 good cards? So okay, what do we get? We got a blocker, which functionally is almost always just going to be the vanilla 2/2 blocker, but sometimes it's a little better. We got a 4/6 vanilla that pays 1 to untap itself at the end of turn, which is again fine. We got a 0 cost event that is a plus 3k, but you know every other colour's had those, so we were due for one. And we got Birdcage, which is only good in exclusive Doflamingo. We also got Baby 5, which is obviously staple in Doflamingo. And we got Monet, which is like the worst of the potentially playable cards. Yeah. Don't worry, Green. Your time comes in set 6. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Cheers.